Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com. We are still working on my song. If this is the first video of this series that you've watched, well, welcome. There's a few more you can watch before this, but I'm basically writing, recording, releasing a song in front of you in 8 weeks. Today we're going to lay down vocals. It's time to sing. It's time to play around with that final musical element. We've already recorded some virtual drums, bass, and a guitar, and virtual keys. And now it's time to sing. So what I want to do in this video is twofold. I want to show you the setup I'm using, give you some performance-related tips that are helpful for me, that might be helpful for you, and then also sort of show you how I think about arranging vocals as I go, at least for this initial arrangement. So let's talk about gear first. I'm using one of my favorite microphones in the last couple of years. It's the Neumann TLM102. I always forget there's an M on there. The TLM102. This is probably Neumann's most affordable microphone. Affordable is relative. I think I got this for about $600-700. I've been using this the last couple projects that I've done, a couple of EPs, one of my own for my church here, one I did with producer Ill Factor out of Miami, and when I did vocals, I did them on this mic. I seem to like what this mic sounds like on my voice. But I've used a ton of mics over the years. The Blue Spark, which is about a couple $100. The Rode NT1A is one of my go-tos. I've even used the Behringer B1 and B2 Pro on my voice. The only problem with those guys is they're a little bit bright on the top end, depending on your voice, so you just have to roll off some of that. This can be bright too. This is a very EQ'd mic, so it's not very neutral, but I like it on my voice. I'm running this direct into my Focusrite. So a lot of times I've used a channel strip. I have an old Focusrite 220 that was a nice preamp, nice EQ, but I'm just going directly into my Claret Thunderbolt interface, right in, and then what I'm probably gonna do is record through some plug-in compression. I love compression on vocals. I love compression while tracking on vocals. Vocals are such a dynamic instrument. I want to hear my voice through some compression. So the great news is that these interfaces these days and the CPUs these days are so fast that you can record at a low sample rate and basically record through the software, through plugins in virtually real time. You don't really hear any noticeable delay. You don't need any DSP on your interface. You don't need DSP processing like some other interfaces. I'm just doing this natively off the computer on a 3-year-old MacBook Pro. So what I'm going to do is find a compressor. I'm going to sing a little bit, test some levels, and then we'll go through the arrangement. Oh, and you might be asking, this guy is a portable vocal booth from Editor's Keys. I love Mark Brown at Editor's Keys. We connected years and years ago. I used to use his actual keyboards. I have all the shortcuts for Pro Tools or Logic, whatever you're using. But they got into a few other pieces of gear, and a lot of companies make these sort of reflection filters, portable vocal booths. He made this version that was black and orange, which is the Recording Revolution's logo and brand color. So when I saw this years ago, I was like, bro, you got to send me one of those just because it matches my logo. And so I've been using this for years. I will say, while these are great, they don't work magic. They don't work miracles, because all they do is block any kind of reflections coming from the side and behind, which is great. But guess what? That's where your microphone rejects the most anyway, if you're in a cardioid pattern, which most of us are. So it's almost pointless, almost pointless. It certainly doesn't protect any reflections from the ceiling coming down or from the floor going up. Now I have a rug on my hardwood floor here which helps going up, but it doesn't protect anything from above. So it is not a cure-all. People ask me about these all the time. I've used them, I don't use them. I don't think it makes much of a difference when it's in the mix, but it's orange and I like it. So I'm gonna use that today. So let me get a compressor set up in Pro Tools on my track, and let's start to lay down the first verse and maybe the chorus. We'll get some levels first too. So I got a track here in Pro Tools. I've labeled Vox. You can see my sort of vocals going through it. It's record enabled, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a compressor. This is the 1176 clone that comes with Pro Tools, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to sing a little bit and see what kind of level I'm getting. It's always a good time to heal. Let's dial up the input a bit. It's always a good time to heal. Let me take a listen in headphones. Yeah, it's always a good time to heal. Cool. So When you're getting levels in your microphone, a couple things you want to think about. One is, first, do levels in the room. So how close are you to the microphone? I don't like to get any closer than a foot away. Now you can get closer, that'll change the sound a lot. If you're singing very quiet, intimate stuff, I mean, even a lot of like Billie Eilish, like her style, it's so soft and so much of that nuance in her voice, it benefits from being close to the microphone. So I would get close for that, but she's not doing super dynamic stuff in a lot of those songs. So for most vocals where you're gonna be up and down, get about a foot away, and then use a pop filter if you can, because this is gonna eliminate any of the plosives, the P's, the B's, things like that. The other problem with being too close to the microphone is where you get that buildup of low end and bass. The microphone has this hype, it's called the Fletcher-Munson curve, and the closer you are, it sort of hypes the low end and it makes the bass, your voice sound bassier than it really, really is. Also, the closer you are to the microphone, the more any kind of movement you make, slight bob of your head as you're getting to the song, creates a drastic volume change. But the further back you go, that volume change drops exponentially so that you can move around and it's virtually the same volume. So you get a much more natural sounding performance if you're at least a foot away. Use a pop filter. These are like $10, $15, no matter what microphone you're using. And then what I like to do, I'll turn the compressor off. I like to check levels in my DAW, so in my software. Record enable, I want to sing probably the loudest part and adjust the gain on my microphone so that I'm peaking at about 75% of the way up the meter. Yes, it's always a good time to heal. So you can see in Pro Tools, my level is perfect. It gives me a little bit of headroom, so if I go louder, great. Obviously, if I go quieter, that's not a problem in the digital domain. And then the compressor is going to help squeeze that a bit. It's always a good time to heal. Keeps it in check, but that compressor is going to allow my quieter parts, which you'll hear in the verse, to kind of come up and match the volume of my louder parts. So it'll be a little bit more mixed. Not perfect, but it'll be a much better starting place for when we do go to mix. All right, so I got my lyrics pulled up here on my phone. I usually don't like to read off a screen. I like to have it memorized a bit more, so it's a little more natural. But I'm figuring out as I go. I'm going to hit record. We're going to try the first verse. I'm not going to worry about the chorus because I'm not 100% on what that transition part is leading into the chorus, so I'm going to at least try to work on the first verse. I like to record in full takes, so we'll see if we can get a full take of verse 1. It's getting cold outside, near impossible to bridge the great divide. Yeah, it's a war outside, so I'm gonna stop and pray and start healing on the inside. It was okay. What I'm gonna do is keep it and record another take. In Pro Tools, I just do another playlist. It keeps that take, and now I can record the same thing over and over again because we can always pick the best take later or pick and choose words or phrases and comp together an ultimate super take out of all the takes later. It's getting cold outside, near impossible to bridge the great divide. Yeah, it's a war outside, so I'm gonna stop and pray and start healing from the inside. Let's try that pre-chorus. And what I'm actually gonna do for the pre-chorus is put that on a separate track because I think I'm gonna have some overlap in the way I sing it leading into the chorus. Healing on the inside. Now I'm shouting out. I'm gonna do another one. Healing on the inside. Now I'm shouting out. So I can either pick one of those for the pre-chorus, or I can use both of them and double them. We'll figure that out later. Now let's try to lay down the hook in the chorus. Feeling on the inside. Now I'm shouting. It's always a good time to heal. It's always a good time to heal. When the world gets crazy and out of line, we can bind these wounds if we kill our pride. Oh, it's always a good time to heal. All right, what I'm gonna do is double that. So I basically created another track, copied the first performance over, and I'm gonna sing the exact same thing alongside of it so that I can thicken up the vocals, get that sort of Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters double effect that kind of creates a little bit of a sense of bigness and excitement in the hook. And sometimes I'll triple it, sometimes I won't use it, but we'll at least give it a take. Feeling on the inside. Now I'm shouting. It's always a good time to heal. It's always a good time to heal. When the world gets crazy and out of line, we can bind these wounds if we kill our pride. Oh, it's always a good time to heal. Cool. So now what I want to do is when the third line comes in, when the world gets crazy and out of line, my vocals went down just a smidge, level, or not level-wise, note-wise. And so I want to thicken that up with an octave below, possibly an octave on top, to make that line pop a little bit. So let me open up a couple more tracks and try this. It may not work, but it might be cool. It's always a good time to heal. When the world gets crazy and out of line, we can bind these wounds if we kill our pride. Oh, it's always... And now I'm going to do another one, but just higher. It's always a good time to heal. When the world gets crazy and out of line, we can bind these wounds if we kill our pride. Oh, it's always a good... I'm going to blend those volumes and see if we create something cool there. When the world gets crazy and out of line, we can bind these wounds if we kill our pride. Oh, it's always a good time to heal. And there you go. That's sort of my process. I'm probably going to play around with some harmonies. Obviously, I have to record verse 2. I'm going to work on the bridge. And then what I usually do is once I've got those core parts down, as I start to look at the song as a whole, and vocally, I use my vocals to fill in any other things, moving parts, counter melodies, echoes, calls and responses, things that I might put a filter on. All that kind of stuff becomes more apparent when you have the core vocals down. So we're gonna lay all those things down, fill in the gaps, and in the next video, you'll be able to hear a lot of that come together as I start to work on the mix. So I hope this was helpful. Hope this was insightful. I'm getting excited. The song's starting to come together a bit more. I'm starting to hear it a little bit more fleshed out. Hopefully you are too. Two things, let me know below what you think of the song so far. You can be honest, if you like it, don't like it, what elements are interesting, what would you add, what would you take away? And then are you following along? Are you working on your song? I know many of you are. How's that process going? How far along are you? Have you finished? What has this process been like for you? What's been the most exciting and insightful part of it? What are you most proud of in your song? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know. And as always, if you haven't already downloaded your companion guide, The 6 Steps to a Radio-Ready Song, it's a perfect companion to the series. It's a great resource to have to make sure you are recording and producing your songs to sound their best. And download it now. It's free. Just go to radioreadyguide.com or click the link below this video and grab your copy of my 6 Steps to a Radio-Ready Song guide. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week on the next video.